Hello, all of you. Actually, I came across some issues in network, so I had to close that live. So please join from this live. So today we will be talking about spiritualism and science, how it works, where is the difference. So we will talk about that. So please join fast so that we can discuss about spiritualism and science, how it gels together and how little bit it is different. Please write hi, hello in the message box. Um all of you, those who have joined, so please join from this link. This is a different link. Hi, Jantada. Yeah, yep. Good evening to all of you who have joined. So, today we will be talking about how spiritualism and science are correlated with each other, but still they create a difference. So we will just wait for 1 minute so that people can join. Yeah, thank you, people who are joining. So welcome. Sorry for there was some glitch in the previous link. So those who have subscribed will get the notification. So thank you for joining. Today we will be talking about spiritualism and science. There is some gelling factor between science and spiritualism, and there is some difference. So welcome all of you, and today is 6 o'clock live. Our date is 4th of June, and we start our live today with this topic called spiritualism and science. A detailed explanation, we can say, about the spiritualism. There are people who feel spiritualism and spirituality is one and the same thing. No, the spiritualism and spirituality is not the same thing. Spiritualism is actually a belief system that often includes the idea that there are spirit and which can communicate with the living. Spirituality is a broader concept which we can say that involves search for meaning, purpose, and connection, and science is a systematic method of understanding the natural world through observation, experimentation, and evidence. So, science basically will require an explanation to, they will require a data, but the spiritualism will not require any data. So, what is science? Science is actually based on some observation, some measurement, some experimentation, and some review. So, that is science, which is based on some data. But what is spiritualism? Spiritualism is helps a person to achieve a personal spiritual growth. Reality includes dimension which is beyond the physical perception, and the soul or the spirit exists independent of the body. Now we can say gravity can be measured in science. We can say chemical reactions can be repeated. Biological process can be observed. So basically, the difference between the spiritualism and the science is the personal experiences in spiritualism will reveal something, because there when the person is following spiritualism, say mantra chanting or healing their sacral chakra or all the chakras, so what happens, they experience some revelation, some different thing. There is a spiritual communication as well. The spiritual communication happens when a person heals the chakra. So, if two persons are at a same frequency, what happens is that then that persons, without talking to each other, they understand what are they trying to express. So that is called spiritualism. But on the contrary, the science is with observation and experimentation. So there should be some data of observation, okay, and with that data, they come to an conclusion that this is good or this is bad. Spiritualism can be often said as it is very, very subjective. Science can be told that it is measurable because we have the data with us, right? So when the data is being we get the data, so what happens is we can measure and we can get a correct answer. But because spiritualism doesn't have any data, so what happens is it may not be repeatable. So X person can do a chemical reaction two times, three times, four times. But a person who is observing spiritualism, if suppose they are at the highest peak of meditation, they can experience beautiful things which cannot be, later on experienced. So it is, there is no short thing in spiritualism. Okay, the meaning of spiritualism, we understand that the meaning itself, it tells that it is very uncertain, and it is based on personal conviction. On the contrary, the science, what it says, it is a natural phenomena, and it is based on the independent verification. Whatever data we might have got, okay, it is based on that. So, what happens when we practice spiritual practices? It has researchers have shown that when a person practices a meditation, so what happens, or chakra healing, so what happens is there is reduction in stress, improvement in emotional regulation, enhance in attention, and influencing the brain activity. So that means if the person is spiritually active, that person can control the emotions, and that person, whenever that person want to react or respond, that person will respond according to the need. On the contrary, science says that if you have data with you, okay, and you do certain experiments, and based on the data, you get a conclusion. Sometimes what happens is a few areas there is some overlap of science and spirituality, where Science and spirituality, there is an overlap. Where am I? Am I here? So science tells yes, you are here. Okay, and universe also, or spiritualism also tells that yes, you are here. What gives life a meaning? Even spirituality talks about what life gives a meaning, and science also talks about that. How should I live? Spirituality talks about that. Okay, so there are certain phenomena in science which we follow, but in spirituality, whatever the nature of consciousness is, we believe and we follow that. So now what happens is there are some frauds which is happening in the name of spiritualism. There are some stage tricks, stage techniques, okay, which can be done by the midbrain, but that is not an activation of third eye. That is done by a trick, by scientific method. So that is not spiritualism. Spiritualism cannot be forced for anything. So if you have to have a consciousness, a awareness, an inner strength, in that condition, you will get it very calmly and very peacefully. I can say that science is a method for investigating the natural world through evidences. Always remember it is the evidence for science which we follow. While spiritualism is an belief system which is concerning consciousness, the soul, and often communicate with the past life soul. Sometimes we spiritualism is being referred as consciousness, where the person is aware about what is going to happen. So spiritualism is a technique where you can achieve a mental peace, but science is a technique where you need to acquire a data to process and to come to a solution. So if I have to tell something about spiritualism, it is a survival of consciousness. Spiritualists believe that the mind or the soul continue to exist after the body's death. Now, communication with inner inner being, the personal spiritual growth, how does it happen? It happens by compassion. It happens by self-awareness. It happens by moral development. It happens by inner peace. It happens by connection with a larger reality, more than life reality. If suppose I have to understand very clearly about science, then I have to follow the observation of the data. I have to have a certain or correct measurement. I have to have a hypothesis formation. I have to have an experimentation. I have to have a review. I have to have a reproducibility. If water boils at a predictable temperature under known condition, we know what will happen. If DNA inheritance can be experimentally confirmed. So this is called science because we have the data. But spirituality, what it asks, why do we exist? Why did we come to this earth? What is the purpose of life? What happens after our this journey? what is the natural consciousness? So scientific view, there are lot of things which has explained about brain injuries, alternating personalities, drug affecting perception, certain brain related controlling mental function. In science it has explained, but spiritual view it has been the consciousness is the fundamental truth. The brain acts like a receiver or a filter. The awareness exists independently of the physical body. It doesn't need a certain physical body to explain. So the science explains with data, and spiritualism doesn't require any preconceived notion or preconceived data. So, if suppose we are doing meditation, in that condition, we reduce our stress hormones, we improve our focus, we increase the emotional regulation, we change measurable brain activity, we reduce anxiety, and we are no more dependent on any pills. Okay, so I hope I made my points very clear. So if you have any question, you can ask me. Welcome, welcome. So, those who have listened, heard after this session, also, if you can hear, is spirituality the answer to every aspect of the physical world? Yes, physical world, I won't say completely. I can say beyond the physical world, also spirituality can answer. So, not only this physical world, but beyond this also. So those who have questions can always write. I will answer you. Okay, after this live also. So live is on. You can ask whatever you want to ask. So and after this live also, you can ask questions. Yeah. Thank you so much for the love and like. Those who are joining, if you like the live, please give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and press the bell icon. So, if you have any question, you can write further. So, I will surely address it. Okay. Thank you, all of you. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Take care.